This program is made possible by the Aleatoric Organization in association with the Divined Design. Because the forthcoming episode of Self-Portraits as Other People is about the Church of Chill, I have been pondering alongside its progenitors about what that is, and more exactly what exactly a church is. So it is fitting that I became an ordained minister recently, online. I became ordained to officiate my friend Ferry's wedding in Southern California. She flew me out there for this particular purpose. To become ordained is no big deal. You just go online, press a few buttons, pay a few dollars, and now you're a minister. They basically give you the title, but you pay for it in subtler ways. Because what is a minister? What does it mean to be a minister? It is your job to define this. I flew out there to officiate a wedding, but there was trouble in transit when the groom got rejected at the Canadian border, and so the wedding was canceled. The Airbnb near Yosemite, where the wedding was to take place, was canceled. A road trip leading up to the wedding was canceled. The bride-to-be's mother's plane ticket was canceled and stranded in California. This ungoogleable minister, though ordained, was left to pay the high price of free ministership, the price of having to ponder, interpret, and embody what it means to be a minister, especially now that the vocation is heeded, but the sacred duty has fallen away. The bride no longer to be, who accepted the turn of events with grace, did need to blow off some steam that evening, so we decided to go dancing for the night, when a startling sight struck me, and with it, my ministerial mission descended upon me like a hawk on the wind. Or rather, didn't descend upon me, it just levitated there, mid-air, hanging there. Death at first sight, and a witchy sight at that. You see, in the spacious backyard of the mansion over which Ferry presides as a property guardian, I spotted, high up in the tree, what looked like a giant bird of prey, floating there lifeless between branches, its wing outstretched as if it were waving at me, feather patterns fanned like a deck of cards, perfectly spotlit by golden hour's waning sunlight. A dead hawk, a dangle like the hanged man in the tarot, witchy as fuck. A little investigation of the somber scene showed the kite care of Ben Franklin and SpongeBob SquarePants tangled in a small palm tree next to the hawk's final resting place. The story was clear. The kite had flown over the neighbor's fence, intercepted the hawk's trajectory, ensnared it, and got stuck in the palm tree, locking the string in a tight tension that the hawk could not free itself from. "What an omen," she said on the car ride. "I wonder what it means." "It means a majestic denizen of the valley has died," I replied. "It is a symbol, but it's also a being, first and foremost." We went out dancing, and when we returned, I sat by the pool and smoked a little cannabis, pondering ways to honor the hawk. Under cannabis's guiding light, new connections were forged. I recalled Little Jewel, which is the name I gave a little hummingbird that had come to greet me multiple times earlier that day, hovering before me in mid-air, its impressive little wings pedaling infinity loops to stay stable, and then once it had my attention, it would zip off, then it would return, catch my attention, and zip off. Just a really magical interaction. But now I understood, playing back its trajectory, that it was flying towards the dead hawk, trying to bring it to my attention. I gazed out over the dark valley, seeming so timeless, and marveled at the hill across from us, twinkling with the tiny lights of homes sprinkled across its face. Just as I began musing to Fairy about this, speaking of how the landscape is prehistoric, yet we've inserted our timely affairs into the mix, fireworks spidered out from that nearby hill. Fairy missed them, but right as I said it, an explosion resounded, like a delayed synchronization, the sound after the visual fact, as if it were a delayed shockwave traveling backwards in time. And just as those twinkling lights disrupt prehistory, so the technology of our kites ride the Hawkwind, ensnaring its denizens, tearing apart feathered families. I wondered if the kite surfer even knew, or if they only mourned their kite as it coasted over the yard line. Just as we have inserted our affairs into nature, so nature has inserted its affairs into ours. And in turn, the hawk earns itself a place in human lore. What makes one animal majestic and worthy, and another bird ripe for slaughter and consumption? How does one earn a soul? How does one become ensouled in lore? Until about 3,000 years ago, humans were buried in unmarked graves. Around the time when the bicameral mind broke down and consciousness arose, we began to mark graves with headstones and names. We began to time bind, carrying the past into a future we could look forward to. This bird is earning a soul, I thought, becoming an IP asset in human lore. That which we call a soul, the worthy part of a being, its dignified and signified entry into the human database of lore. This dead bird is a living god. A squawking now called our attention. The hawk's partner had arrived, perched on the outskirts of the garden, atop a crane, beckoning me to pay attention. I walked over, I listened, and then we sang towards her, channeling the melody of this grievous malady, the reality of her partner's passing. And I acknowledged her wishes to honor him. I felt that in those moments I was learning what it is to be a minister. My mission was to deliver this beloved member of the community to the ground. If we could find a way to get him down, this sky royal bird, splayed on display, crucified on a kite-string, made an example for all the creatures in the grieving valley, each of which paying their respects in their own way. The Hawkwind delivered apologies for leading the hawk astray. The coyotes yip in the distant canyon. Even little mice, I imagined, would take off their hats and bow their heads, saying things like, "He was a merciless killer, but he was fair." It's good to live with the dead for a while. It puts things in perspective. It clarifies the stakes. Hawks mate for life, and life had ended for one of them. Down in the garden, the backyard, they said, she came a-squawking, and here's what she said, don't leave fairy had fantasized about climbing the tree to set it free, but the next day it was clear that the climb was too perilous to attempt. Arborists were called upon, but none ever showed up. The homeowner informed me that morning that the hawk was still alive and calling out from the tree. You must understand, I had spent the previous nights crying into the dark, shadowy ink blot of that tree, attempting to detect even the faintest flicker of vitality, but detected no signs of life. So, skeptical, I went out to investigate in daylight, only to find that my assessment had been correct. The bird was a goner. Only its mortal remains remained. Later I would understand that what he had heard was in fact the ladybird, who I shall name Mourning Hawk, as she visited her man, calling out from the treetop. Because she blended in with the tree so expertly, her voice had the effect of a kind of ventriloquism. Relaying this story arc as it unfolded to Sean over the phone, he reminded me that the Church of Chill thing to do would be to call in Bruchad. Bruchad Eggleston, an old friend from the Bay Area days, better known as the Cello Goblin, it is true, could ascend that tree like nobody's business. Bruchad never got back to me. The local pool guy, Jesse, stopped by and fashioned a long pole to try and get the hawk down, but unfortunately the contraption was not long enough, though we managed to get the kite down from the smaller tree. Its string, however, was too entangled in the branches, so the hawk remained up there. The homeowner proposed to return the kite to the neighbors without relaying the cautionary tale so as not to upset them. To the neighbors it'll go unnoticed, he proposed. No one will be bothered by it. The background soundtrack, the shrieks of children at play in the next yard over, unaware of the death their wayward kite had caused, reminded me of the film Zone of Interest. Their oblivion to the horror, the effect they'd had on the non-human neighborhood, all of it lost on them. But to a minister the dreaming land dreams grief, and the dry valley weeps. The mourning hawk howls and carries the dead hawk's name on its breath. The call of its mate, a survivor's squawk, haunting and shrill with incomprehension, a call unanswered. A life is infinite, full of potential until it is finalized by death, pulled into definition. In order to resolve our unfinished business in the hearts and minds of others, we live on in the lore. The thing is a vibe until its intangibles get tangled up in descriptive kite strings, like that hawk up there. Its spirit is encoded in its name, being called, being squawked by its partner. It lives on in that unheeded call, that haunted cry that screeches its dissonant incomprehension into the indifferent night. Praise the lore, and the hawkwind that will carry its lore spores on the breeze. But the day following the lady hawk's squeaking pleas, the magic subsided, and in a sobering moment I grappled with doubt. Was the hummingbird really trying to alert me? Or did I just spin it that way in the aftermath? Was the hawk partner really asking me to do the ministerial thing and forge this bird a soul to bury its remains? Or am I delusional? Is being a minister delusional? Am I just spinning animals' squawks into my own anthropomorphic model, or am I really negotiating with reality in the non-human world? I desperately wanted to believe this colors of the wind Pocahontas narrative, this proverbial Mickey Mouse bullshit, but Disneyland, Anaheim, was only 6 miles away, and I might have been afflicted with its cartoon spirituality and viral ideology imposed on us since childhood. I didn't spend much time in the garden that following day. The homeowner's former au pair came to visit with her husband and kids, and they all played blithely in the pool, unaware of the hawk's lifeless remains hanging up there. The next day, mourning hawk flew back into the garden and called out to me from the roof. This rebooted my faith. She flew up into the tree where she perched. Later she flew off and returned with a dead rabbit. Mourning hawk was sitting Shiva, squawking Kaddish. She brought her man a little bunny, legs dangling. Now the tree of life was heavy hung with deathly ornaments. Maybe she dropped it intentionally, trying to feed her man, hoping he would catch it, but the bunny carcass plummeted, missing the dead hawk on the way down. Now there was a rabbit's foot at the bottom of the tree, for good luck. Except there were parts of its head, too. I had a vision, a moment of anthropomorphic empathy. I pictured the hawks as humans on the couch, one of them dead. A static flicker of a television set on his face. The other hawk not understanding the fact. Getting upset when he doesn't eat the meal she prepared for him. Why is he being like this? Is he mad at her? What an asshole. She's been slaving away in the kitchen all day. An emotional, morbid scene in my mind. The animal has a sense of loss or grief, there's no doubt about that, but it lacks the symbolic apprehension of death that we do. The notion of a soul distinct from its active form. I felt it was my job as a minister to hold space whenever she would return to her mate's decaying body, and to inject some kind of solace or understanding by inserting my presence into the scene. I kept referring to the tree as the tree of life, calling to mind Terrence Malick's masterpiece, which demonstrates how small and insignificant our lives are in the cosmic and evolutionary scope of things, but also how deeply the loss of a life echoes through the microcosm, rupturing the web of family and community. It was also clear to me that all of this was just preparation for my own father's funeral in the not-too-distant future. It has been a slow grieving process, losing him bit by bit to Alzheimer's disease, like a magician staging a slow disappearance act. Jordan Peterson once said that the goal is to become the strongest person at your father's funeral. The sentiment echoed through me as I held space for the hawk. Hanging up there in the tree of life, the hanging tree, bearing strange fruit. I gotta come to terms with the reality of the matter that, in spite of my hopes and prayers, the hawk did not come down on the full moon. The answers, my friend, are not blowing in the wind. A dead hawk's carcass is. And it's starting to reek. The truth stinks. Fairy invited over a few babes to have a little fire dancing party in the yard. The entire time, I was between two worlds, the world of the party and of the funeral that was taking place unbeknownst to the fire dancers. In turn, I allowed my perception to frame the dance in such a way that it became a bridge between the two worlds, so that the fire dance became part of the funeral rite, and as the dancers fanned their flames like wings, their dance became like that of the bird's essence set free, purified in fire. Occasionally I would hear mourning hawks' lamenting squawks in the background. On the final night, I ingested some MDMA and forged a hyper-presence to finalize the funeral, forming the hawk's eulogy in song. Down in the garden, the backyard, they said, don't leave him hanging, he's better off dead. Then Mama came knocking and squawking, she said, don't leave him hanging, put him to bed. We rode on the Hawkwind by kite-strings ensnared. Don't leave him hanging, lonesome up there. His wing outstretched, he hangs upside down, like a tarot card waiting to drop to the ground. He'll be a dream catcher, Ghostbusters beware. Forlorn and forsaken, a dangle up there. Deliver his sermon on Hawkwind through air. I'll do you one better, one feather, one hair. I'll make him a story, I'll craft him a soul, turn kite strings to yarn and let the lore make him whole. And Mama came knocking and squawking, she said, give him a burial, put him to bed, make him eternal, use these words that I've said, to revise and revive him as his gospel is spread.